All right. Just be thankful that didn't happen in the second round of the playoffs. Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame Show, where we are going to have a lot to talk about in what ended up being a 119 117. I actually didn't even realize their last ditch three went down, which of course ended up being meaningless. But yeah, 119 117 Knicks loss to the Boston Celtics. That is, I am just going to be honest with you, I have not usually towards the end of games, I'll at least start to think about how I am going to recap a game, what I'm going to say at the start of one of these things, or what my main points are going to be. I was so focused on that game that I'm kind of flying blind here because if you can't be invested in a game like that, I mean, you're not going to be invested in any game. That was not a perfect basketball game by any stretch of the imagination. There's some things the Knicks could do better, which we'll talk about. Boston was without, essentially, for all intents and purposes, without Jaylen Brown, even though he played 22 minutes in the game with a knee issue that, I mean, listen, we say it all the time. Injuries affect playoff games, playoff series. Injuries affect championships. I don't know if Jaylen Brown's going to get right. There is a possibility the Celtics don't even need him to get through the East, which is a scary thought, but it's true. But that needs to be said. I am going to take a positive tone after that game. And I understand that loss is incredibly disappointing on a number of fronts. I understand that they had the game won. You could argue that they had the game won on a couple of occasions with a 3-point lead before Jason Tatum was fouled on a 3-point attempt. And then certainly with a 3-point lead when Jason Tatum hit a shot to bring them into overtime. I understand that there is nothing, I don't think, more disappointing as a fan than losing a game that you kind of had in hand. When you add in the fact that it would have been the Knicks' first win against any of these big-time teams, and I'm sorry, Boston is even separate amongst that group for the Knicks because of how little they have had to work to manhandle the Knicks over the course of this season. When that is the prize at the end of the rainbow, and you had it in your hands, and you get it taken away from you, or really Jason Tatum snatched it away, because I mean that dude is, and I've said it a few times now, I would put him third on my MVP ballot ahead of Giannis Antetokounmpo. I know nobody wants to hear that right now. Games like this are wild, though. Bucks having a massive comeback win tonight against Minnesota. We'll get to that in a little bit. Jason Tatum's awesome. He's one of the best players in the NBA. He's proving himself. Forget is he top 7 or 8 conversation. No, he is. If you're building a team today, he's one of the 3 or 4 players that you consider, and it's an easy decision. So, yeah, he snatched it from you, and in snatching it from the Knicks and in snatching it from Knicks fans everywhere, there is a good deal of pain that has been inflicted on top of the existing pain that the Boston Celtics have inflicted all the way back from opening night. And that pain is real, and I do not want to minimize that with how I'm going to discuss this game. I also don't want to sit here and pretend that the Knicks figured out some sort of magical answer against the Boston Celtics tonight. One, because no such answer exists. And even if it did, they didn't figure it out. I said it at before last season, after the Jrue Holiday trade. They constructed the perfect basketball team, and the only team that's ever going to beat them is themselves, for as long as they stay constituted as this version of the team. So Yeah, there is no magical solution. There is not ever going to be a moment where the Knicks, and I personally probably don't think any team, but definitely the Knicks, as long as they are built in this with this core, there's not going to be any game where we're going to come out of that game and we're going to be like, by golly, they did it. They figured it out. It is going to, if they're ever going to beat this team, it's going to be the sort of win that they almost had tonight, that they should have had tonight, which is scrapping and clawing and leaning into and doing a lot of the things that have defined this organization over the last several years and have not necessarily defined it in this year. You're going to beat this team with an offensive rebounding discrepancy that looks like it did tonight. 17 for the Knicks, 9 for the Boston Celtics. You're going to beat this team, and this is kind of a new thing, by getting splash plays on the defensive end. Because here's the thing. It doesn't matter how soundly you play the Boston Celtics. Were there mistakes made tonight for the Knicks defensively, including a absolute just, your heart falls into the pit of your stomach and then just keeps going and slides out your ass, falling asleep on an inbounds play that I would rather never discuss again and think about again. Were there defensive possessions tonight that left you really, really wanting more? Absolutely. Those possessions are always going to be there because you can't, again, tip your cap to the team that they've assembled. You're never going to play a perfect, it's never going to look like a perfect defensive game against this team because of how smart all their players are and because they put 5 players on the floor who could pretty much do all of the things that basketball players are required to do. Yeah, they do them at different levels, but all the guys they play could do pretty much all the things, with the exception of Luke Cornett can't hit threes, but like, hey, not a major Achilles heels, especially when the other guy playing in the middle, he can hit a few threes. We'll talk about him. So you're going to get those possessions where your defense looks silly. Were there a few more of those possessions tonight than we would have liked and that the Knicks are certainly capable of avoiding? Yes. But you're also going to get a bunch of possessions where you defend the thing really well and you execute and they still score. So how do you beat this team? How do you limit this team from scoring at will? You turn them over. You get into them. You become aggressive. And 15 turnovers, and the Knicks scored 22 points off of those turnovers. And that goes hand in hand with, well, how do you score against this team when their defense is so difficult? Although I think the Knicks, I'm excited to talk about that because that's, I think, the biggest story from a positive aspect for the Knicks this game. Even so, even if the Knicks did figure out some things on offense, the easiest way you're going to score against the Celtics team is still turning them over and getting easy opportunities in transition. So the Knicks did that in addition to the offensive rebounds. You got to play smart basketball. You have to outsmart them. Jason Tatum is maybe the best non-point guard lead ball handler in the league these days, but he's still not a point guard. And they don't have that one guy who is the ultimate steady hand, with the ball. Like, you can get them in that way. You can make them make mistakes. They do make mistakes. They made mistakes in the playoffs last year. It didn't end up hurting them, but they made them. You saw it in big spots. Even tonight, the Knicks, I forget what it ended up being, a 10-2 or an 11-2 or something run in the fourth quarter. You have to outsmart them. And I thought for stretches of the game tonight, the Knicks outsmarted the Celtics. So you have to do all of those things. But even if you do all those things, you can still be made to look silly because of the challenges that the Celtics present. And let's go through some of the things that we learned tonight, I think, both good and bad, and things that should provide encouragement and things that are maybe either still worrisome or maybe not as worrisome, but need to improve. And we'll talk about which of those categories the bad stuff falls in. But I want to start with the good, and I want to start with Karl-Anthony Towns. Karl-Anthony Towns is Gonna make an All NBA team. I was trying to do my All NBA today because I'm going on a Patreon pod tomorrow. Shout out to all of our patrons out there with DJ Zulo, and we're gonna pick our final All NBA teams. And Karl Anthony Towns is in a group of 9 players for me that are in consideration for last first team spot, all the second team spots, and then the 3 third team spots. I don't know where I'm going to wind up putting him. He's going to make an All NBA team. My guess is he probably makes third team. He might make second, though. Even so, there are a lot of Knicks fans that have watched the Karl Anthony Towns experience this year and said and have said, you know what? I'm not sure this is the way that I want to go moving forward. Well, tonight, Karl Anthony Towns showed you something. And yeah, we'll get to the foul on Tatum, and I'm going to have a take on that foul that you're probably not going to like. But we'll get to that in a bit. If you are the self-purported greatest shooting big man of all time, and teams have to guard you like one of the greatest shooting big men of all time, which they do. And by the way, I don't even did Towns even hit a 3 tonight? I don't even think he hit a 3 tonight. I'm checking right now. He was 1 of 3. He had 1 3 tonight. And teams are going to put non-centers on you. You have to bring those guys into the house of pain. You have to. And thus far this season, against these switchy defenses, for the most part, Karl Anthony Towns has not done that. Is it a question of because he can't? Is it a question of because he's unwilling? We didn't know the answer. But what we started to see while Jalen Brunson went out is more and more of that from Karl Anthony Towns. And that all led up to tonight because tonight, Karl Anthony Towns took on that challenge head on, and he absolutely answered the bell. Again, was it perfect? No, it wasn't perfect, but it was pretty damn close. Going 13 of 18 from 2-point range and scoring 34 total points. 3 of those points came on threes, 5 from the line. I know he had a costly free throw miss late. That's not optional. If they're going to beat the Celtics, that's not an option. That has to be the default. That has to be the baseline for New York's entire offensive game plan. If anything, you could argue that they should have gone to Towns more. And that over the couple of stretches of this game where the offense did get a little, I don't want to say stagnant because I don't know that I ever felt their offense was stagnant, but maybe where some of the shots weren't as good as you would have liked and Towns is on the floor, but credit the Celtics. Like, there was a lot. Trust me, the Celtics were trying to do everything possible to take that stuff away. And if you want to argue, the game turned in the first 2 minutes of the third quarter when the Celtics came out in zone and it flustered the Knicks enough to give up an 8-0 run. If you want to say that that's where the Knicks lost the game because it took them too long to figure that out. And for Tibbs to call the timeout after they had given up the lead and went down by 2, you want to go for that? I'm not going to say anything. It all counts. And moments like that, and people, I'm trying not to go on a rant here. Benji, shout out to Benji, been saying for a while, the Knicks don't have a zone. Is it because we want the Knicks to play zone every possession, or even because we want them to play zone for stretches of every game? No. But if you could throw a monkey wrench that flusters a team for 2-3 minutes, that could be the difference in a game, and that could be the difference in a playoff series. And again, I started the thing by saying, thank the good Lord this was not in the second round. Because we'd be thinking about those 3 minutes potentially as, oh my God, that's where the game turned. So, but neither here nor there. Cat was great. Cat was great on offense. And you know what? Let's stick with Cat for a minute before we talk about some of the other stuff. Defensively, the bad, as it often is with Karl Anthony Towns, was very bad. When you see him in a different zip code than a Kristaps Porzingis or a Jason Tatum coming around a screen, or after, Karl is up at the level of the screen and then retreats, you're like, come on, man. And look, people are going to blame it on the coach because they always blame it on the coach. It's fine. regardless of what anybody says. But when they interviewed Tibbs at halftime, and they asked him about, well, what can you do to stop the Celtics offense? He was like, we got to, like, there has to be less space between our defenders and the shooters. It's not rocket science. So it is clearly, I think, a comfort thing with Towns when they are in some semblance of a drop. And to his credit, he started to get further and further up. And there was one Tatum three that he hit from deep out when Towns was further up. Didn't matter, because here's the thing, and this is why this team is so hard to beat. Whether you're 5 feet from the 3-point line or you're 1 foot from the 3-point line, when you're facing a guy like Jason Tatum, or for that matter, Kristaps Porzingis, it doesn't matter, because these guys have range out to 35 feet, or in KP's case tonight, 40 feet. And I'm all over the place here, but like, again, if you're thinking about like, oh my God, this is going to be a sleepless night for me, this was a game that you should have won when Kristaps Porzingis has he had a better 3-point shooting game in his career? Maybe he has. I don't know. This was up there. I mean, 8 for 13 from 3. Some of the shots were absolutely ridiculous. Tatum, not as good from 3, but I mean, we'll talk about him on those shots on Mikal Bridges. Like, he had himself a heck of a night as well. But we say this, when players have these great nights against the Knicks, it usually isn't by accident. It is because they sense a comfort level in getting those shots. And obviously this is returning to the bad. Is this fixable? Yeah, it's fixable. It's fixable because the Knicks did a better job of it at other times in this very game. When they are more aggressive at the level, whether it's in a switch or just a hard hedge or a momentary double, are those times, were there some times during those instances where the Celtics got him? Yeah, absolutely. But you kind of have to pick your battles at some point. And in those instances, you are giving your backline defenders, who were not very good in those situations against the Suns, and the Suns just missed a bunch of shots, you're giving your backline defenders chances to make splash plays, and in the form of steals. And they did that a lot tonight, and that's not an accident that happened against or when you were playing slightly more aggressive defenses or a defense. We've been talking all year about whether the ultimate solution is you got to switch more. We talked about it, I think, after the third Celtics game, the one that was almost the comeback, where we saw Jalen Brunson switch pretty liberally against Jaylen Brown. We had never seen them switch Cat in this particular matchup against really any Celtics, especially against Jason Tatum. We got that sometimes tonight. The play that will be remembered from tonight, or one of the 2 or 3 plays that we'll remember from tonight, is Cat switched on to Tatum and Cat fouling him on a 3-point attempt. I get it. You can't foul the 3-point shooter there. I loved that they switched it. I loved that they switched it, as opposed to letting them put on the rubber gloves and get out the scalpel and carve apart the Knicks defense as they did on so many other possessions. I like that Karl-Anthony Towns took on that challenge. I like that he was aggressive in the coverage, as opposed to playing 3 or 4 feet off of Tatum and letting him have that 3. I get that it was a foul. Was it a foul? Yes, it was a foul. I didn't think it was egregious. I would love to see him take on that challenge again in a similar spot. I really would, because ultimately you're going to have to do all of this stuff. Did it work out tonight? No. I think the one that if there's any play from tonight that's going to keep me up at night, it's the fact that the Knicks all-world defender, who has a really good chance at this rate of making an all-NBA, all-defense team, in OG Anunoby, just his instincts got the better of him, and in a 3-point game, he bid on a pump fake. That's the one that keeps you up. That's going to keep you up, and I'm sure it'll stick in OG's mind, and it should, because I mean, look, it can't happen there. You can't bite on that. You can't bite on that when you have a 3-point lead. And he bit, and we know what happened. credit to Tatum for putting a great move on, but it really shouldn't have mattered in that instance. So, look, you got it to that point. And when you get it to that point, you're supposed to win. And they didn't. So that's enough about Cat. I thought Cat was the story of the game for reasons mostly good, some bad, but the ones that were bad, I got some hope from it. So that's that. In terms of other Knicks stuff, let's start with the offense. Thought the offense was good. I thought the ball movement, for the most part, was good. Against the Celtics, you are inevitably going to need to have your fair share of isolations from your best players. The Knicks had that tonight. And even so, they had 27 assists on 48 made field goals. That's not a great percentage. But I like the intentionality behind everything that they did tonight. They got good looks. I think OG Anunoby was due for an off night. Is it fair to be critical of the Knicks for, in the first half, maybe not trying to get OG going a little bit earlier? Absolutely, that's a fair critique. I said it at halftime, and I think it now. And I wonder if once it got to the second half, OG was a little, trying to almost make up for lost time. He's been on such a heater from three-point range coming into this game. Tonight, he was 0 of 5. Didn't love some of those looks. Thought some of those looks may have been a little forced. But he got it going a little bit towards the end there. So between OG having a pretty offensive night and then Mikal Bridges, and I guess I wasn't going to be able to avoid this for the entire evening. I'm sure other Knick content creators, no doubt, led their post-game shows with the Bridges fumble out of bounds. That's fair. Can't happen. It's a brain fart. And if it was in many ways the perfect capper on the game that Mikal Bridges had after Jason Tatum, I mean, Jesus Christ, Reggie Miller pulled out a child abuse line, which I was like, did he really just say that? And he did. But look, what more can you say? And for the majority of the game, Mikal Bridges was bad. Maybe bad is too strong a word. He was soft. He was soft in his coverages, and he was soft in how he sought offense. It is annoying that we have seen him be more aggressive for him, which is not much, going to the rim and going into the restricted area and maybe even, God forbid, seeking a little contact against some teams in the league this year. But he does not seem to do it against these more physical, more versatile defensive teams. Sure enough, tonight did not shoot a single free throw. He just needs to be better. There were some looks he had that were good looks that just missed. He did have some big moments down the stretch, which I thought were important for him. And I hope he could carry those forward. I'm sure my guess is that a lot of the super chats are going to be killing Mikal Bridges. That's fine. The guy's had a really tough year. I'm just not going to sit here and kill him for what was a really rough moment at the end of the game. And for right now, there is an MVP level player who just has his number. That's just the reality. It's not something he needs to necessarily hang his head about. The 5 first-round picks of it all, it's always going to be there in the back of your mind when you're thinking about stuff like this, when you're analyzing a game like this, when you're analyzing whether or not, why do we always seem to lose to this team? Oh, that's where we expended our assets. Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's frustrating. And he needs to be better. I mean, there's no two ways about it. He needs to be better. Although, again, as Reggie said multiple times, I don't know how you play better defense on Jason Tatum. The way you play better defense on Jason Tatum is to have OG Anunoby on him, which was the case for most of the game. Where I want to correct the broadcast, and it's not like they all of a sudden decide to switch OG Anunoby onto Jason Tatum. They had OG Anunoby on Jason Tatum for vast majority of the first half, and on many possessions, he started on Jason Tatum, and the Celtics were getting that switch. We could have a longer conversation about whether or not the Knicks should concede that specific switch. Personally, I will concede it 10 times out of 10. I understand what Mikal Bridges, or what Jason Tatum did to Mikal Bridges on those mid-range shots. I understand those 2 points feel like 6 points in the moment. I'm still conceding the switch because you know why? The alternative is what the Celtics want you to do. They want to get you in rotations. They want to have drive, kick, boom, open three. That's their lifeblood. That's how they beat you. Switch it because it's not, again, if we're sitting here and we're saying you got to switch Brunson and Cat onto some of these players sometimes, well, you damn well better be sure to or be ready to switch Bridges, even if it looks ugly sometimes. And by the way, they did that switch in overtime, and Mikal Bridges held his ground with a slightly more aggressive brand of defense, by the way. That's what I want to see. Get into Jason Tatum. Make him feel you. You didn't make him feel you enough tonight. So Bridges has to be better. Talked about OG. Haven't talked about Brunson yet. Maybe another thing that we should be really encouraged about from this game. Jalen Brunson looked kind of sort of like Jalen Brunson. Ended up 5 of 12 from deep. Had 2 pretty decent opportunities there late in overtime. Missed both of them. It's unfortunate. I'm not going to hold those against him. I thought for him to come out in his second game back, think about that. His second game back from a month-long injury, went out and had 27 points on 21 shots and 9 assists to 2 turnovers against that Celtics team. That should have everybody. Maybe that might be actually the thing that's more encouraging from this game than Karl's performance on offense. Is the balance still perfect, or is the balance perfect yet? No. Last game, we saw Jalen Brunson defer a little bit too much. This game, maybe there was a little bit too much Brunson with the ball and not enough getting others involved. That's going to be a challenge for the Knicks moving forward. Figuring out that balance. I keep repeating myself, but was it perfect? No. Were there reasons to be really optimistic? Yes. The last starter I haven't talked about is Josh Hart. I thought Josh Hart played a phenomenal game. I know he didn't shoot it well. Didn't make a 3, took 4, missed all 4. He was 5 of 14 from the field overall, made half of his 2-point shots. You know, the stat line won't pop out at you. 10 points, 11 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals. He's been getting a lot of those lately. I thought tonight Josh Hart reminded everybody why he needs to play a big role for the Knicks if they're going to do anything in the playoffs. Reasonable minds may disagree. What that guy gave the Knicks for, what did he play? 48 minutes. I mean, the energy from maybe not minute 1. He actually started the game without the best energy because he had a ball snatch from him. After that, though, I thought Josh Hart, with a couple of exceptions for sure, I thought he was a really positive force. The bench, I don't have much to say about the bench. Mitch came in, really helped change the energy in the first half. I liked Mitch's minutes a lot. He did a lot of really good things. He got involved on the boards. He made Boston pay on the offensive glass. He needs to get better at defending these pick and pops because he doesn't. With Cat, you get it more because Cat doesn't have the foot speed, doesn't have the mobility. You know, once somebody puts it on the floor, and God knows we saw Tatum do that a lot to Cat in prior matchups, which is why he is scared to play up to the level. You get it. Mitch, man, you want to talk about yourself as an all-NBA level defender when healthy? Well, then you ain't got no excuse not to be playing up to the level. You just don't have an excuse other than, I fell asleep. Well, you can't fall asleep against these Boston teams. So for as much good as Mitch did, he has to be cleaner and better. I think that can improve. Liked what I saw from the double big lineup. I hope the Knicks go back to that. I think it's going to be something that they go to as at the very least a different look for in a potential playoff series against this team. Cameron Payne didn't like his first half. Thought he really redeemed himself in the second half. Landry Shamet, don't have much to say about him. Last guy I haven't talked about, Deuce McBride. Big time energy game from Deuce. Really liked what we saw from Deuce. I obviously hit a big 3 there it was a massive 3, middle of the third quarter when it really, 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 really felt like the game was starting to get away from the Knicks. That was big. His steal of Kristaps Porzingis down low after the switch. Again, good things happen sometimes when you switch. And then I thought that was a big steal in the moment. I should also mention Mitch early in the fourth quarter has a massive block of Jason Tatum. That's where you got to be, man. You got to be up there. You got to be up there at the level. So again, we saw it. We saw him do it. Now you just got to do it all the time. Okay? You got to do it all the time. Can't fall asleep. And then campaign with the big three after that. So good stuff there. So yeah, the bench, look, you got what you needed to get from the bench. And you got what you needed to get from a couple of your big players. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I really wanted to hit on here. I'm sure stuff is going to come up throughout the post game. Couple of obvious switches that weren't made, which led to threes. Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of stuff. I could be sitting here talking for another hour, but I'm sure there's a lot of super chats and things that people want to cover. Let me just end by saying this. I was really having some doubts, as I'm sure everybody was, about whether the Knicks could make it a series against Boston. If got work to do, certainly got work to do. If they play each other in the second round. Tonight, at least, gave me reason to believe that it could be a series. Do I think the Knicks would win that series? No, I don't. I think they are still not quite there. And I don't know, is it going to take more time? Is it going to take some roster rejiggering? I don't know what it's going to take. Just don't think they're quite there yet. But they could play with this team. They could play with this team, and I know they could play with this team because they had that damn game tonight, and it wasn't like the Celtics played poorly. Yes, Brown was a non-factor for Boston. I get that. And I'm not going to diminish that. Brown, he's not going to make an All-NBA team this year, but he has an argument for it. So that's a really good player for Boston, and he just fills a lot of gaps on both ends of the floor, even though the guys that played for him were really good. So I don't want to diminish that. But Brown aside, the Celtics played really well tonight. And I thought they played hard. I thought they played to win. And I did not think that they took this game, as like lollygagging around. And you had Kristaps Porzingis with an all-timer. Credit to him. The fact that you had the game and there's so much stuff, not only that you can improve on, but there is reason to believe, based on what we saw tonight, they will improve on. I'm a hell of a lot more optimistic right now than I was 3 hours ago. Would love to get the win. You would have loved to get the win. They would have loved to get the win. But sometimes it doesn't go your way. But as is said sometimes, you win or you learn. And in this instance, the Knicks will hopefully do some learning. Okay. There you go. That's it. We're going to get to super chats, but first, a very quick word from our very good friends at Cornbread. Shout out to Cornbread. It's my favorite thing to say on these post games. And why wouldn't I shout out Cornbread? Because their Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies are the natural way to relieve anything that, or a whole bunch of different things. Aches and discomfort. The gummies are formulated to work for your body. If you're someone like me and you're on the north side of 40, physically, mentally, it's not quite there the way it was when you were a bit younger. So Cornbread's CBD gummies are one way to give you peace of mind. They only use the best part of the hemp plant, the flower, for the purest and most potent CBD. Everything's third-party lab tested. It's USDA organic, safe, secure, pure, everything you want, whether you want to relieve discomfort, stress, sleeplessness, the whole gamut. Right now, Knicks Film School listeners could save 30% off of their first order. You just head to cornbread, hemp.com/KFS and use code KFS at checkout. Let's see if we get that right this time. Cornbreadhemp.com/KFS and use code KFS at checkout. Okay. All right, I'm ready. I don't know what tonight's gonna bring. I usually don't like, it's the job. You handle whatever it is. I hope it's not all negative tonight. I really do. But whatever it is, it is. So let's get started. Okay, as I take a sip of beer. Cayenne Pepper. What's up, man? Starting off on the right foot. Best defensive effort I've seen this year, and it's not even close. Thanks, Macri. Appreciate you, Cayenne. As Mark tells me in the chat, I'm going to start it off positive. Holy, that must mean there's a shitstorm coming, Mark. Well, I appreciate you starting it off positive. Best defensive effort. The effort was there. Say that. The effort was there for sure. Do not take the 15 Celtics turnovers for granted. This is an insanely good Boston offense that you held to 107 points in regulation. And yeah, it should have been 104. You held them to 107. I saw, by the way, Tibbs was asked about whether or not they thought about using the foul. And OG said after the game, I should have fouled. So OG's owning that there. I tend not to concentrate as much on, should you foul, should you not foul? Those situations can go well for you. Those situations could go poorly for you. Either way, what happened. It doesn't change the fact that I thought the defensive effort, let's say this, Cayenne. It was the first time, other than maybe the first OKC game, where they played with a defensive effort against a great team that was good enough, a great offense that was good enough to win. They have not yet played a defensive game against a great or even a really good offense that was a good enough defensive effort to win a game. Until tonight. Tonight, the defensive effort, it was good enough to win the game. They didn't win the game. I think they could build on it, and they have to build on it. And that's really all there is to it. Thanks, Kanye. Appreciate you. The Raving Rover. What's going on, Raving Rover? Thank you for the contribution. The Knicks won't win a chip with Cat at center. No excuse for playing Hart and Mitch together. Tibbs hasn't ever played Mitch, Cat, OG, Deuce, Brunson together. In my opinion, that's our only shot. So Mitch, Cat, OG, Deuce, Brunson is a lineup that I spitballed about, I'm pretty sure I spitballed about in a recent newsletter. Shout out to all the Substack subscribers. Yeah, look, there's different combos that they could go with. And those combos have pluses and minuses. For me, I did not come away from tonight being like, I can't believe that he played Hart and Mitch minutes together. Because those guys respectively did really good things tonight. And those guys made winning plays tonight. Even when they were on the floor together, I thought they made some winning plays together. As far as they won't win a chip with Cat at center, is it harder? Yeah. Might it be impossible? Might be impossible. I think the Knicks are going to go get a big time, or maybe not a big time. I think they're going to try to get a center this summer. That's not Mitch. And that they could play more minutes with Karl Anthony Towns. I think that's going to happen. I think they're going to make an effort because I think there is some truth to what you're saying. But if Karl Anthony Towns is on your team, you're going to have to play him some minutes at center for sure. You should. It would be irresponsible not to. And it's just about figuring out, well, all right, how do you survive those minutes defensively? And what you're looking for at this stage of where this version of the Knicks is at, I think you're looking at, all right, can we see signs of hope at the very least? Because right before this game, they were at level 0 in terms of signs of hope. And now you're somewhere higher than 0. So we'll see. Thanks, Raving Rover. Jesse Daniel, F moral victories this team can't close. They actually can close, Jesse. They're one of the best closing teams in the league. And I would remind you that they were at one point down in the fourth quarter against the defending NBA champions. Where were we here? Yes, that's right. They were down by 7 with 5 minutes to go. And they proceeded to take multiple 3-point leads in the final minute against a defending NBA champion. So that is an incorrect comment. Thank you, Jesse. JD Macau with another gem versus a contender. Yeah, wasn't great. It wasn't great. Incredibly frustrating night. I think if you are someone that has already been frustrated by Mikal Bridges, if you're someone that is down on Mikal Bridges, I'm not going to blame anybody for being mad at him, for being frustrated by him, for being aggravated that this is the guy they got for the picks that they were saving up for. It doesn't look great right now. It hasn't looked great against any of these good teams. I think you ask yourself the question, is he capable of being better? And you're looking for signs of hope that he's capable of being better. I'm choosing to take some of the positives that I saw from tonight. I completely agree with you that it was in no way, shape, or form good enough. And for it to end with that turnover that, you know, it's tough. It's tough for him. It's a tough look for him. I think it's an especially tough look for him because I think he represents a lot of the differences between this year's team and last year's team. And, you know, it's not great. Thank you, JD. Jibo, how do you not foul up by 3? OG plus Mikal Bridges, no show. Yeah, I mean, you heard them say it. OG said he should have fouled. I mean, again, I'd be lying if I said I was thinking of it in the moment. I wasn't. I probably should have been. It's not. It's just never the thing that goes through my mind. It's probably a blind spot for me. And obviously it was a blind spot for OG Anunoby as well. And he's one of the best defenders in the world. So, you know, it's unfortunate. I would not define this game as a no-show for OG Anunoby. I don't know if I'd define it even as a no-show for Mikal Bridges. I thought Mikal Bridges at least showed up here and there. OG defensively, with the exception of that play, which will obviously stick out, I thought defensively he was exceptional. And on offense, he had a tough night, but he also did some big things. I mean, his offensive rebound late in the fourth quarter to actually give them the lead, finally, 103-102. That was as big a rebound as he's had as a Knick. You know? So you take the good with the bad. Was there a little bit more bad than good tonight for OG? Yeah, but there's some good stuff too. Thanks, Jibo. Johnny Leary, what's going on? Against Boston, does Hart have to play this much? I mean, 48 minutes is a ton. I loved what Hart brought tonight. I thought he was really good. I thought and I think the key for me, and look, it was only one play, but there was a play where like Drew Holiday absolutely bodied Deuce McBride down low and scored like it was nothing. I think when you are dealing with a situation where, all right, you have to protect against Brunson switches, and that's a little bit of a 5-alarm fire, and you have to protect against cat switches, and that is a little bit of a 5-alarm fire. And then when you introduce a third player into the mix who is small against that team, you know, and again, it's not just Tatum that can big boy Deuce McBride. It's Drew Holiday can big boy Deuce McBride. Jaylen Brown, when he's going right, can big boy Deuce McBride. A lot of different guys. Now, does Deuce make up for it with impeccable tenacity? Yeah, he does. And he did tonight. On several occasions, he got himself in there and helped contribute to some of those turnovers, but that's also a thing that Hart did. And the thing that I'm going to laud Hart for is that he wasn't just standing around behind the three-point arc acting like a fake spacer. He was moving and he was cutting, and he was a big part of why the Knicks were able to score against the Celtics when they were. So, that said, 48 minutes is 48 minutes. It's a lot of minutes for Josh Hart. Thanks, John. Drew P. Josh playing those minutes is insulting to watch. Well, I'm sorry for you, Drew. I have nothing else to say. Russ Guberman, what's going on, Russ? Hey, JM, what are the odds of Tibbs is playing 4 DHS and holding back on activating OG's offense in the playoffs? Help me to believe. I'm not sure how to handle that comment, Russ, because I thought OG, again, was not utilized as much as he should have been in the first half. I'll tell you that right now. They tried to start getting him going in the second half. It was annoying that it took that long. I'm with you there. He got opportunities in the second half, and I thought they were good, positive, the sorts of plays that he's been succeeding on that maybe just didn't have the same result that we've been seeing for a while now. And part of that's because he's playing a really good defense tonight. There's also the part of it where it's like this, myth that like every coach has in their like satchel that they carry around with them, like this secret, like something that looks like a remote control, except there's just 12 buttons on it, and each button is a different player's name, and then you push the button, and then it's like activate that player, and then it's like, oh boy, that was easy. Well, unfortunately, that remote control doesn't exist, Russ. And when you're playing a defense that throws as much at you as Boston does, and it could be especially tough. He had his opportunities, didn't make the most of them. I think he will be better in later games against Boston should they happen. Thanks, Russ. Silly me for thinking there would be some modicum of positivity tonight. Kevin Danishevsky, hi, Kev. Want to start with positive? Great. Best we've looked against a contender all year. Yes. Cat is with a big boy night. Yes. JB getting the legs under him. Yes. But man, McCall, come on, dude. Yeah. I know that's tough for you to say, Kev, because you're a big McCall fan. You were a big proponent of the trade, and you're still a big proponent of the trade. And I'm not calling it. I'm not calling time of death yet. I refuse to. Not before the playoffs, at least. Not before the playoffs. Like, Mikal Bridges has done enough good stuff this year. I know it hasn't come against the good teams, but he's done enough good stuff this year that I really do. I think he's done enough to warrant us saying, all right, let's see what happens in the postseason. Can't get much worse for him. I'll say that. Thanks, Kev. Anthony Sixto, what's going on? Anthony, definitely got some positives to carry over to the playoffs. Cat played the doubles and shades so patiently, perfectly. I am worried that Bridges may have just added more mental weight. That turnover was rough. That's such a tough one, Anthony. I don't know. It's a fair worry. I was kind of leaning the other way. Like he did a couple nice things against Boston. Again, you could probably count them on one hand, but they were there, which is, again, more than you'd be able to count in some other games against these big teams. That's for sure. But the turnover, man, I look, he's been around the league a long time. It's been a very tough year for him. I don't know what his mental state is going to be going into the playoffs. It's also a big summer for him. He's obviously eligible for an extension. Is he going to get that extension? Who might be giving him that extension? Hasn't been an easy year. Hasn't been a good year. You got to hope he can pull it together. As for the Cat stuff, I cannot be more impressed by how Cat handled everything tonight. I thought he did a really good job. I know defensively there was some stuff, but I thought he did a really nice job. Thank you, Anthony. I am AK Legend. Overall, feel good. Are they peaking before the playoffs? I'm with you. I am AK Legend. Obviously, we are in the minority, at least amongst the more vocal supporters of the Knicks, at least on this show. Are they peaking before the playoffs? I mean, if Tatum misses that three, or they foul and he makes 2 free throws, and then they win in regulation. I mean, are we calling that the best win of the season? Maybe. Of course, the shot did go in. They didn't foul, and then they lost in overtime. So all of a sudden, it becomes the worst thing in history. It's how it works. I like how they're playing. I mean, I hated how they were. I mean, they were playing atrociously before Brunson went out. Like, they were playing really bad. And now I think they're playing well. So, I choose to be hopeful. Thanks, I am AK Legend. Owen Larson, what does it take to get Giannis? A genie in a lamp? Probably. Thanks, Owen. Deadward 604. What's going on, Deadwards? How are you, my man? Thank you for the very generous contribution. We appreciate it. Not encouraged. And Macri might flame me. Kale salad disappears as usual. And hashtag save us 11 offense kicked into full gear in overtime. It's more the same against a good team. Sorry, but it's just frustrating that nothing is changing. I mean, look, I'm not gonna flame you. Andrew always says, fan short for fanatic. I get it. People are upset. I get it. The only thing I'm going to get on you a little bit for is for you to say that it's just frustrating that nothing is changing. You got the Celtics, if they wanted to, could have beaten the Knicks this year in the 3 previous games by 130 points total. They could have, if they wanted to. I'm not being facetious. What does that average out to? 43 points, 43, 2 43-point wins and a 44-point win, something like that. I think they could have done it. If they really wanted to. I think they could have done it. You had a 3-point lead tonight until the last possession or penultimate possession of regulation. And it wasn't by accident. It wasn't because the Celtics had a cold shooting night from 3. Shit, they had one of their players who's a really good player, had probably the best shooting night of his life. And it wasn't because the Knicks, had hot shooting. You didn't. They shot 28% from 3. So, and that, so to get where you were, that doesn't happen by accident. That comes from meaningful change. You want to get on Brunson for those moments in the playoffs, or in the overtime. Okay. Were you getting on Brunson for all of the 50 or 60, whatever it is, clutch baskets, many of which were threes from the exact spots that he took those shots from in overtime? Were you singing the same tune when Brunson hit all those shots earlier this year, Edwards? Were you? Are you going to be singing this tune when Brunson finishes either first or second in clutch player of the year? Sometimes you put the ball in your best player's hands and you say, go get me a bucket. The Boston Celtics have the most sophisticated offense in the league. And you know what they did at the end of the game? They put the ball in their fucking best player's hands and said, go get me a bucket. He was able to. Tonight, a few times, Brunson wasn't. And a few times he was. I understand it's frustrating when you lose. But we got to keep it a buck here. Have to. Thanks, Edwards. Darth Dream, what's going on, Darth? Jalen Brunson's late game heroics are like Febreze to Tibbs' play design in the clutch. No innovation in the tight moments. Out of bounds plays have been poor this entire tenure here. We've maxed out, so we've got a little fire Tibbs flavor of the night. Again, I mean, if you're, I'm trying to figure out what you're being critical of here, Darth, because if you want to be critical of the possession with 2.6 seconds left, 2.6 seconds is not, or 2.2 seconds, excuse me, not a ton of time. Was the innovation or whatever your criticism of Tibbs, was it poor when they had a beautiful Jalen Brunson assist to Josh Hart making a layup under the basket with 11.2 seconds left? Was it poor when they got a really good attempt for Mikal Bridges when he made a mid-ranger with 50 seconds left? Was it poor when Jalen Brunson managed to get into nice position for a mid-range shot and like, again, being able to draw those switches that gets a Peyton Pritchard on a Jalen Brunson with the opportunity to have what was a shot that brought them within 1 point with 2 minutes and 21 seconds left. Like, that doesn't happen by accident. So was that poor or not innovation or whatever the hell you want to say? The Bridges bucket before that, like, I could keep going on and on and on and on. But you don't want to hear it, right? You don't want to hear it because it's a lot easier just to say, oh, this coach is, he can't think of anything good play calls in the clutch, so we're always going to lose. I understand it's easier to do that, Darth. Unfortunately, reality is not always in line with what we would like our narratives to be. Thank you so much for the contribution. Jason M., what's going on? Not fouling up 3 under 10 seconds left was ridiculous. Sure, there's a lot to be positive, but you just can't make that mistake. What the fuck was Tibbs thinking? Listen, if you want to get on Tibbs for that, it's fine. It's fine. I didn't think of it. Doesn't mean he shouldn't have. Doesn't mean OG shouldn't have. Yeah, like, when do you foul? Like, they had an opportunity to foul. You hope they learn from it. It's not, there's nothing much more to say. But yeah, if you want to put the blame on him for that, that's fine. I can't say anything. Thanks, Jason. Juanon, what's going on, Juanon? How are you, man? The Celtics are who we thought they were. That's why we took the damn court. Now, if you want to crown them, crown their ass. But they are who we thought they were. Hashtag fire Tibbs. Nah, it's a damn good team. They, all the credit in the world to, I was going to say Ime Udoka, to Joe Mazzulla, a very good coach. Brad Stevens, one of the 2 or 3 best executives in the league. The fact that he was able to pull off the Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday trades in the same summer for what he was able to get those guys for is like, if the Celtics don't win more than one championship with those moves that he made to add to the core that they already have, it would just be a massive disappointment. This team should win at least another championship, which I know is hard in the NBA today to win multiple championships with the same core. It's why nobody's done it for a while. But yeah. Anyway, that's it. Thanks, Juno. William E. What's going on, William? Knicks held their own. OG is a beast. Brunson is Brunson. Cat balled hard. Bridges has to be better as a playmaker and as a clutch player. You kind of said it all there, William. I'm not going to have any disagreement for you. I think that's a really good, smart, reasonable take. And, I'm looking, Bridges, he had 4 assists. I do want to go back and watch those. Assists are kind of funny. Like, you don't always necessarily or create looks, so to speak. But I don't know. I liked all the shots Bridges took tonight. He had a couple of lowlights, or some real lowlights on offense. He had some misses. You have to make. I didn't think he played bad defensively for as much as he has to toughen up and get into these guys more and just not let them get Tatum specifically, let him get as comfortable as he got. Didn't think it was a bad defensive game for him. He just Tatum's really good, and he needs to be better. But someone didn't necessarily have to have a bad game on one end of the court, for you to say they need to be better. He needs to be better. He needs to be better. A lot. Thanks, William. Dan Hidalgo, what's going on, Dan? Excuses, but KP shoots like that, unbeatable. Here's the thing. They were still beatable, and they should have been beaten by the Knicks freaking tonight. That's what makes it so frustrating. That's what makes it so frustrating. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate you. Just as I typed this, KP got another open three. Yeah, got to clean it up. Got to clean it up. Thanks, JD. Sam Garcia, why not foul up 3 late? It's been the theme of the night, it seems. I just feel really badly that that's gonna be like, you hate for a game that was as well played as that game was, that was as competitive and as much energy was expended. You hate for the takeaway or the talking point to be something that happened or didn't happen, as it were, in the span of a few seconds. You hate it. But that's how sports go. That's how sports are. It is what it is. And I think part of the reason for the frustration is because it was such a big, a well-played game. And because they fought so hard and because they were right there to win that one. And it's like, to let it go on that, it's tough. I don't have a good answer for you, Sam. Don't have a good answer for you. CC Kirby, what's going on, CC? Underrated minor issue. Knicks going, I always forget something. This is the thing I forgot tonight. Thank you, CC. Knicks going 10 of 17 from the free throw line in a game where every little chippy point mattered a lot. I know it's not a big deal, but I really wanted them to win this one. No, I hope I didn't insinuate that. I hope I didn't insinuate that this was not a big deal that they lost. It was a big deal that they lost. This was, you didn't beat the team. You didn't beat them once the whole freaking season. That matters. You couldn't pull it out late. That matters. You made some big plays, but every one of your players had opportunities to make big plays, and they didn't. Including Cat missed one of those free throws in the fourth quarter. Don't forget that. Or in the overtime. Excuse me. That matters. It all matters. And yeah, the free throws, hit your free throws, you win the game. OG had that stretch there over a couple minutes where we went 1 for 4. That's pretty inexplicable. Hart missed an and one. Cat missed one. One I'm forgetting. I don't know why I'm trying to remember. I have the freaking box score right here. Cat missed another one somewhere. I don't honestly remember when that one was, but that was the other one. Yeah. Thanks, CC. Thank you for bringing that up. It's a good point. Kevin Danishevsky with another one. Also, you won't like this. Hart was fine. He can't play entire second halves, not against this team. Got to throw other looks against this bear of a team. No, I'm not. No, I'm not pushing back on that, Kev. I loved how Josh Hart played tonight. I thought he was really good. I thought, when good things were happening, Hart seemed to be in the middle of it. It doesn't mean he should be out there for all 48 minutes. He played 48 minutes. Doesn't mean he should be out there for all 24 minutes of a second half and then all 5 minutes. Well, he's going to play all 5 minutes of the overtime. But that means that you had a non-shooter out there for the entirety of the second half and overtime. And you have to analyze, okay, were there more benefits that came from that than negatives? And even if there were more benefits that came from that than negatives, it just because you are benefiting on the whole from those minutes does not mean you cannot, have a few minutes where you throw something else out there. And you've talked more than anyone about more 5-out looks. So to not get one instance of a 5-out lineup. Now, does this Boston team present some unique challenges? in terms of their size, yes. Is Hart the one guy Tibbs knows he doesn't need to take out of a game? Yeah. Doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it right. I'm not disagreeing with you on that one. Not at all. Yeah. We can sure, Mark. We could do our friends at Mando. Always happy to talk about Mando. There you go. You see the decal on the screen. What is Mando? Well, it is a different kind of deodorant. That is the thing that you need to know. It is a whole body deodorant that is safe to use anywhere on your body. I think last night I held up the wipes and the body spray. What are we gonna highlight? Let's highlight this little guy. Oops. Like, I'm gonna drop it on the floor. So this is the Invisible Cream Pro Sport. It's whole body deodorant. So a couple things, 72 hours of odor control, because, you go through those stretches of days where, like, hey, let's say you work in like an ER or something. I know I hear from a lot of readers and listeners that have crazy jobs that require so much of them. A little thing like this could go a long way. It works anywhere you need it to work. Your pits, your packages, we know what that is, your feet, any crevice on your body, you could use Mando to make it smell much better than God intended, because God unfortunately gave us men some odor that we have to deal with, and that is why doctors who saw firsthand how BO is being misdiagnosed and mistreated invented Mando. It's clinically proven. It works better than a shower with soap alone. It's everything you could possibly want. So if you want to get in on the action with Mando's starter pack that is perfect for new customers, and get that solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, and then 2 free products of your choice, plus free shipping, just take advantage of our special offer. New customers can get $5 off a starter pack with the exclusive code that equates to 40% off. All you got to do is use code KFS at shopmando.com. That is shopmando.com. Support Knicks Film School. Tell them we sent you. Smells fresher, stay drier, boost your confidence head to toe with Mando. Okay. Here we go. Hits keep on coming. JD, McCall is just so not a Knick. I've emotionally moved on. Well, that one, JD, that one I may not dismiss so fast. If you're gonna put all the X's and O's and whatever else aside, why has this season felt the way it has felt as opposed to last season? Why does this season feel so much more underwhelming and so kind of limp compared to last season? You took out Isaiah Hartenstein and Dante DiVincenzo, who are two of the, without question, two of my 5 favorite Knicks since the 90s. It's not even close. Hartenstein, really Hartenstein, but DiVincenzo too. And you replaced him. Well, you replaced him with Cat, who has not exactly been a big game player so far this year. Came through tonight in a big way. Give him credit for that. I did. You also replaced them with Mikal Bridges. And it's hard to watch Bridges and get the sense that he has the same level of shit to him that DiVincenzo had. And you gotta have some shit to you. You have to have some shit to you if you're going to play in this city, and especially for this basketball team with how they've developed over the last few years. Thank you again, JD. Garson Rodriguez. What's going on, Garson? Gerson, excuse me. Without Cat playing like he played tonight, we will not beat the Celtics this year, period. We need this man playing like he played tonight. Yeah, on offense, we need him playing like he played tonight. The thing that I'm encouraged by, and why I don't think tonight was some kind of a one-off, I think that was easy for Cat. I think that was easy for Cat tonight, and I thought the most impressive part of it was it's not like he was blindly, going into these post-ups, he was aware at all times of where all of the Celtic defenders were on the floor. My favorite possession of the night might have been the one they showed on TNT where he had the 4 guys surrounding him. And you know what he did? He faked the pass to OG, and immediately when he faked the pass, it scared everybody away, and he took advantage of that pass, that moment immediately, and put up a shot and went in. He's capable. Guy was the number 1 pick in the freaking draft. Who NBA? I've said it so many times, but it bears repeating. For 2 years, NBA GM said, if I could build my team around anyone in the league, I would build it around this guy. Those polls were put out when LeBron James was in his, around 30. You know, to say nothing of Kevin Durant and you know, other really good players. Steph Curry. He's got the talent. He's never quite put it all together. Maybe he is here and now. Thank you, Gerson. Hush Zoo, what's going on, Hush? In your honest opinion, Macri, do you think this team can win it all? If not, what has to change? Is it a player or is it a coaching change? 0-9. Do I think this team could win it all this year? No. Do I think a core built? Do I think a team with Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson on it can win it all? Probably not without a center on the roster who could give you 20, 25 minutes a night. As far as the coach, look, Mike Malone got fired today. A couple of weeks after Taylor Jenkins got fired. Mike Malone that guy's an exceptional basketball coach. He's been in his job for 10 years. He almost got fired the year they won the title. Voices grow stale, and sometimes you just max out what a particular coach is. I'm always going to sit here and defend Tibbs for people who, make it out like, oh, he's the bane of this organization's existence, or, he's the only reason they lost the game. And most of all, the stuff that drives me crazy is people who, look at a website or a spreadsheet and think that they know better than someone who's been in the profession for, 40 years. But might they need a coaching change? Absolutely. Absolutely, they might need a coaching change. Someone who brings a little bit of a different flavor on offense. Maybe someone who brings a little bit of a different flavor on defense. Maybe someone who is more willing to mix up rotation and substitution and lineup patterns and things of that nature. Am I looking at an organization or a team that feels stale to me? No, in part because they just put this team together last summer in many ways. So I think part of the reason I'm having trouble answering this question is it is year one. It is year one. If anything, if you were someone who came into tonight asking yourself whether or not, as you are asking here, do you think the team could win it all? Whatever percentage chance you gave them before tonight, I think the percentage chance has to go up after tonight. And I think that is an encouraging sign that maybe it is just going to take time. And it isn't that they need to shake up the roster or fire the coach. But no, I mean, ultimately, my biggest reason for not thinking this team is capable of winning a title is because Boston is out there and they can do what they do. And they're just so freaking imposing. But, they're going to have opportunities to improve. Either certainly the roster and probably on the sidelines as well. Thanks, Hush. Joe Vogel, what's going on, Joe? This has probably been brought up, but why is Hart in the game with 3 seconds left? Should be 5 shooters. Just don't get it, and it's happened before. Because he's the smartest player on your basketball team in terms of cutting, in terms of making the right pass. I mean, it was 2.2 seconds left. It's not a ton of time. I'm frankly not sure what they had drawn up. Is it a fair question? Yeah, it's a fair question. I thought about it. I'm giving you devil's advocate positions, but ultimately you want to tell me that Deuce needs to be in the game there. So if you get a 3 from Deuce, it's at least a better chance of going in. That's fine. We've also seen Josh Hart hit a lot of these, like, Josh Hart with the clock running down, he's the best shooter on the planet. Usually didn't work out that way tonight, but oftentimes he has a funny way of hitting those shots. And in big moments, that's the other part of it. It's in big moments. So I wasn't really bothered by it, but I understand if you were. Thanks, Joe. Scott Thomas, what's going on, Scott? Knicks will have to explore a Bridges trade in the offseason. Does he ever get a loose ball? Yeah, no, that falls under the softness category. And of all the frustrations that have come with the Mikal Bridges experience this year, I do think, he's also, you think about the game-saving blocks he's had. Obviously, he had that moment against Portland. Like, it's not like he hasn't had big moments and moments where he does display some level of toughness. Maybe more mental toughness than physical toughness, but I don't, to answer your question, will the Knicks explore a Bridges trade this summer? I believe they will. And I don't know if that's a hot take, but I think they will. And by the way, I think what they do with Bridges, and I've kind of alluded to this before, I think it will be completely and totally independent of what they do with the coach. I think they could think the coach is perfect to lead them forward and want to trade Bridges. I think they could fire the coach the day after the regular season and want to trade Bridges. I think the two things have nothing to do with one another. And whether they trade Bridges will depend far more on the marketplace and what they could get for him and what they feel like their needs are than anything else. And obviously, needless to say, what they do in the playoffs. Thanks, Scott. Freeway Hustler 21. What's going on, Freeway Hustler? Love JB, but he has to figure out how to involve OG early. Yeah, we talked about that. I agree. Or is that Tibbs' job? It's 3 people's jobs. It's actually 6 people's jobs. It's JB's job as the point guard for sure. It's Tibbs' job as the coach. It is OG's job to have some agency and to actually be a little bit more proactive. And it's all the other guys that are on the floor. It's everybody's job. It's never 1 or 2 or 3 people's responsibility to get a player, involved in the offense, so to speak. No one wants to hear this, but the game does actually tell you what to do. And I thought there were some instances in the first half where the game may have dictated getting OG Anunoby more involved, and they did not listen to what the game told them. So anyway, to finish your comment, that ISO Brunson shit needs to be limited. We're always going to feel that way after a loss, especially when there's some isolations that don't go through the hoop. The reason Jalen Brunson is who he is because he is one of the best scorers of the basketball in the league. I understand that you're always going to want more of the team-centric stuff and less of the isolation stuff. I understand that. That is the toughest. That is the highest plane of existence as an NBA player, to achieve that level of being able to walk that tightrope at all times in all of the biggest moments of the biggest games. You could count the players on one, maybe 2 hands throughout the history of the league who have ever truly perfected that balance. So can Brunson be better? Yes. I'm never going to get on him, or rarely will I get on him. It has to be egregious. And I could, hasn't been often where I feel like it is. I didn't think it was egregious tonight. Huzzoo with another one. Also, does Josh Hart's inability to recuperate his three-point shot the past couple of months worry you at all? It's so sad to watch the Celtics ignore him. Yeah, it's sad, and it's a big deal because he's doing all these other things to try to help the offense and impact the game in positive ways, and it would just be a lot easier if he could hit threes. I think it definitely makes their life harder. And you're forced to sit here and go back and forth about the same shit, which is, all right, we know Josh Hart is hurting us in these specific ways. Are the ways that he is helping us enough to offset or balance out the ways that he is hurting us? And obviously there are many people that fall on both sides of that question in terms of what they think the right answer is. I've always tended to favor Josh Hart, and yet I wrote a newsletter last week in which I proposed that Josh Hart should be playing about 25 minutes a game. I think I said 24, actually, to be exact. So, if he's not shooting it, it makes his life a lot tougher. Thanks, Hush. Parrish Duggar. Oh, boy, here we go. Blameless game. OG made a crucial mistake trying to guard Tatum for the 2 and 3 instead of giving up the 2 with 3 with 3 seconds left. Yeah, that was one of the first things I said. Not happy with Hart's 46 minutes. Yeah, well, 48 actually. It's fair. Didn't need to play as much as he did. But yeah, it was a critical mistake and it's unfortunate. Not fouling and then biting on the pump fake. Both of them tough mistakes for a really good defender. Great defender. Thanks, Parrish. Mango Man. What's going on, Mango Man? We don't have to freak out about this one, but we can be realistic. We won't beat them in a series, just reality. And neither can 98% of teams. # patience. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with a word of that, Mango. I don't think that they will beat them in a series. Even if they had won this game tonight, it wouldn't change my mind as to whether the Knicks could beat the Celtics in a series this year. Do I think they'll have a chance? Yeah, I think they'll have a chance. I'm going to watch the series. I'm going to go into the series feeling very hopeful. I'm going to try to be, if that series comes, I'm going to try to be very positive about it. I'm going to think of all the ways and all the things that they could do to give Boston real fits. And at the end of the day, if Boston didn't win it, I'd be surprised if not shocked. But they've built a really spectacular team and they have really special players. Jason Tatum is, I mean, shit. If he wins the championship this year, not to sound like Bill Simmons, but like, I mean, if Tatum wins the championship this year at his age, if he could stay healthy, like you're talking, this is a guy we're going to be talking about as one of the 20 to 25 greatest players of all time. Probably that may sound ridiculous because I don't think he's ever going to win an MVP. And maybe that alone should relegate him outside of that conversation. There's nobody in the top 10 or even maybe the top 15. You could say like, yeah, that never won an MVP. Jerry West is the closest, and he's maybe on the outskirts of that conversation. And Jason Tatum ain't Jerry West, so maybe like top 25 to top 30 is more in line. But again, if he stays healthy and he keeps playing like he's going to be, you're talking about a guy who's going to be probably top 10 all time in points. You're going to talking about a guy who you're going to look up and presumably if the Celtics could keep some semblance of a core together, he's going to be on all the playoff leaderboards. But he needs to get that second title for sure to be part of that conversation. Is he going to get there? Well, no, we'll see. We'll see. Not there yet, but he's just the leap that he's made is, and it's been I mean, I shouldn't say leap. It's just been great. Like uphill every year. A little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit better, a little bit better. Guy's an unbelievable player. Thanks, Mango Man. Deadwards with another one. Despite my negativity before, Cat was great and took it to them. OG didn't have his shot, but his defense was great on Tatum, even with some circus shots he hit. Yep. Agree with both of those, Deadwards. And good job by you balancing out your previous comment. Thank you. OG team. What's going on, OG? The Miami Heat were 1-11 in the regular season versus the top teams in 2006 and then proceeded to win the championship. Well, that is an encouraging stat. I did not realize. I like the 0-9 record. I'm not bothered by it. But the fact that we got this game makes me like, all right, they haven't been fully healthy for most of those games. That's the thing. Like most of the blowout, they've had I think 1 or maybe 3 or 4 bad losses when they've been pretty much fully healthy. And actually, that isn't even true because they didn't have Mitch for some of the ones when they were kind of healthy. And I think Mitch makes a positive difference. They also they haven't played well. And some of these other teams have played great. Tonight, they played well. They played well. That's the most important thing, is they actually played well against one of these teams. And I think part of what was so frustrating is we were left wondering, well, how close are they? We couldn't even answer that question because they didn't play well in any of these games. Not since the OKC game and for 1 quarter of the last Boston game before tonight, So it's you couldn't even answer, how much worse are they than the Celtics? Are they 5 points worse than the Celtics? Are they 10 points worse than the Celtics? Are they 15 points worse than the Celtics? Because they played such dog shit in so many of these games. Tonight, they actually played well. And what happened? They're up by 3 with 3 seconds left. So, man. It's just for no other reason that it would have made tonight so much more pleasant. I would have really liked for them to win that game. Thank you, OG team. Kevin O. Peterson. You don't go 0-9 in horrible fashion against elite competition unless you're tanking or not coached well enough. Tibbs is going to have to be amazing in the postseason to hold off Malone and Jenkins. I'm not getting into who would be a replacement for Tibbs if he gets canned. Because we could have that conversation another day. I'm telling you, well, I shouldn't say that. My strong suspicion is if they get to the second round and they face the Celtics and they lose in 6 close games, I hate to break it to you, Tibbs doesn't go anywhere. Maybe it does. Maybe Mike Malone was fired today. Anything can happen. But I don't know. Yes, some of the games were in horrible fashion, and Tibbs and all the players certainly need to own that. To boil down his candidacy for remaining coach of the New York Knicks down to their record against those elite teams this year, I think would be a little unfair. So, let's see what happens in the playoffs, which again, you're suggesting. So to be fair. Thank you, Kevin. Walt Clyde Fraser, lost focus late in time, will get the Celtics chemistry. I mean, it only took them a decade. I know they won the first year after they got Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday. I get that. But their core had been together for years. The Brown Tatum core. And they had to cycle through players. They went through coaches. It was a long journey, and they were there were a lot of years in there where the Celtics were really good, And they finished off a season in what people would undeniably call a disappointment. When they lost to the Warriors in the finals, that was a disappointment. When they lost to the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals, that was a disappointment. When they lost to they lost in the first round to someone one year. That team was such a mess. That was a disappointment. The Kyrie team, when they lost in the playoffs, I think it was in the second round. That was a disappointment. Like, this team has had some major disappointments. I just named 4 of them or 3 of them, whatever it was. And they never traded Brown. They never traded Tatum. They stuck with Stevens, eventually promoting him, obviously. And they just trusted that, keep the faith. Now, you have that luxury when you draft a Jason Brown or a Jaylen Brown and a Jason Tatum. And as long as you don't trade them or they don't decide to force their way out, you're going to be able to keep them for the entirety of their primes at the very least. It makes it easier to have that level of patience. The Knicks, it is slightly more difficult because they're obviously a little bit older, and that's number one. And number two, the Celtics, give them all the credit in the world for this too. They still have not expended all of their assets like all of these other teams that have been chasing a championship because they didn't need to. It's like when they needed to make the Derek White trade, it's like, we got a future pick swap for that. The fucking Porzingis trade that they got picks in that trade is still ridiculous. But we got to give up a pick to get Drew Holiday. It's fine. We got it. And that's the other reason why the Knicks are a little bit different. That said, can they keep this team together or keep a really, 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 really good core together for the next 3 years after this one? At least they absolutely can. And I do think patience is not uncalled for here. Thank you, Wildclad Fraser. Kevin with another one. Sorry if my last comment sounded too negative, Macri. It's all good. I want to be grounded, and there are some decent takeaways if you look closely enough, but 0-9 is 0-9. Yeah, it is. Yeah, but again, if you really want to do the let's look closer thing, we could talk about how the first Cleveland game, they had a 13-point lead. 13-point lead or an 8-point lead? It was a significant lead in the third quarter. We could talk about in the OKC game, which that team, Oklahoma City, is going to have one of the best net ratings in the history of the sport. They made that team look, not silly, but they really had the better of that team for a half in Oklahoma City, and that game came down to the wire. Tonight, they should have won the freaking game. The last Celtics game, say what you want about how many points they were down, but that was a one-possession game late in the third or early in the fourth quarter. And I just named 4 of the 9 games. In the other 5 games, there were definitely some games in there where you did not have your full complement of players, and this version of this roster has not really been able to afford missing some key players. Like the fact that 1 or 2 of those games, I'm pretty sure had, if not more, had Precious Achiuwa prominently involved. Like, what else do you need to know? So, look, this sounds like the biggest excuse-making gobbledygook nonsense, what I'm saying right now. But I'm trying. I do think that there are reasons to have some optimism, even in light of the record. I believe that. If I didn't believe that, I would tell you. I would not be trying to blow smoke up anyone's ass. I'm just telling you how I feel about it. Do I tend to be more optimistic than not? Yeah, absolutely. I will tend to look on the side of if there is reason to have hope and believe and be positive, I'm gonna be positive. That's how I go about my business, better or worse. Just telling you how I see it. And I'm more encouraged than discouraged tonight. Monroe Doctrine. What's going on, Monroe? Hope everything is well with you. And shout out to your son as well. First time, long time, John. Thanks for all you do. This was a fun game. I'm assuming you're the same Monroe Doctrine as someone else I talked to on Substack, but I'm not sure if you are. Make your free throws. I expected Mitch to be a disaster versus 5 out. Agree it's not ideal, but it wasn't a disaster. No, it wasn't a disaster at all. He made some of the biggest plays of the game. The block on Tatum was massive early in the fourth quarter, and he had some big offensive rebounds. I think he had 7 rebounds total in like 19 minutes, 16 minutes. He had 4 offensive rebounds, 2 blocks, a steal. Like, that's good stuff. That's good stuff from Mitch. He needs to be better. I think he can be better. Is Mitchell Robinson the center that I want on this team moving forward? I love Mitch. I will. I'm always going to feel like he's a little bit too limited to be a guy who plays 25 plus minutes, and that's even putting aside the question marks about whether he can remain, dependably healthy. But that's an off-season conversation. Tonight, Mitchell Robinson was good. Thanks, Monroe Doctrine. Darren Faust. What's going on, Darren? Great defensive game by OG. He just ran into one of the best in the world. No shame in that. Get McCall on the first flight out this summer. It's tough, Darren. It's tough and it's not about what you gave up to get him. I mean, it is implicitly, because if you didn't give up what you gave up to get him, you would have all of the stuff that you gave up, and you'd be able to use those assets on other things. It's tough because I think, I don't want to say the book is out on McCall now, but the concerns that exist about Mikal Bridges and about, is he is he tough enough? Is there a softness to him? Can he only succeed against specific sorts of defenses? If he is your third best player, how far can you go? And he's going to get paid. Probably he's going to want to get paid like a third best player. So it's not that there aren't teams out there who are going to look at Mikal Bridges and say, yeah, we'll bring on Mikal Bridges. We'll even pay him. Maybe nobody wants. We'll pay him a lot of money. It's not about that. The guy's, I know he didn't have a good night tonight. The guy's really good. And he's been really good for about half of this season. Not consecutively, but like if you add up all the games that he's been good. He's been good for more of it than probably not, for being honest. But if you're trading Mikal Bridges, you are trading Mikal Bridges to make your team better. Put aside what you gave up for him. If you're trading him, you need to trade him to make your team better. Where is the trade that makes you better? I've thought about it a lot. I've looked. Because to make your team better, and if you're trading out Mikal Bridges, that means you are bringing back a player who probably needs to be good enough to be the fourth or at worst the fifth best player on a championship level team, and he needs to fit specifically with what you are doing and get you closer to solving the specific problems that exist against the best teams in the league. That is ultra specific. So the notion that finding a Bridges trade is going to be easy, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. But, Knicks have Brock Aller and nobody else does. So let's hope that helps. Thanks, Darren. Okay. Quick break. Do Out-of-Town Scoreboard presented by T-Squared Social. Of course, our last regular season watch party of the year is coming up on Friday night against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Before that, we will have the Iman Shumpert event at Torches. If you are listening to this and you don't know, Iman Shumpert is debuting his new product called, here we go. The decal coming up. Yes, TSA approved. So it is a TSA approved takeover. Be among the first to buy the product, sample the product, Again, getting things started at about 3 o'clock at Torches NYC. It is right across the street from T Squared Social. Amon's going to be there, giving away a signed jersey, giving away some KFS swag. And come on down. Meet Amon Shumpert. You want to meet Amon Shumpert? Come on down to Torches on Friday. Very easy. Walk right in, and he's going to be there. And he's going to be looking to meet people and, talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about. So don't be bashful. I'm going to be there. I can't wait for this event. It's something that we think is going to be very, very cool. And so we hope to see a lot of people there. Okay. Out of town scoreboard. What do we got here? Okay. We got the Warriors in the process of destroying the Phoenix Suns. I'm not sure if this is officially going to eliminate Phoenix from playing contention, but might as well. Clippers up 15 on the Spurs. That game also still in progress. Finals. Grizzlies over Hornets. Cavs over Bulls. Pacers over Wizards by only 6 points, actually. Magic over Hawks. Nets over Pelicans. The Bucks, I'm going to actually look up how many points the Bucks were down. They were 20. I'll double check that. They were down by 24 points. You want to talk about disaster zone? Woof. Bucks were down 24, and they came back to beat the Timberwolves 110-103. And the Thunder made good or came back with a resounding victory after the Lakers beat them the other night, won by 16, and they outscored the Lakers by 17 points in the fourth quarter. So obviously a big closing performance from them. Where does that leave us? In the Eastern Conference, Cleveland has clinched the top seed. The Knicks are 2 games ahead of the Indiana Pacers. They need to win one more game, or the Pacers need to lose one more game in order for the Knicks to clinch the 3rd seed. By virtue of the Bucks win tonight, they are now 2 games up on the Detroit Pistons. Both of those teams have 3 games left to play. If the Knicks beat the Pistons on Thursday and the Bucks beat the Pelicans, that game is also on Thursday. The final 2 games between the Bucks and the Pistons, they play each other to close out the season twice. Those games will not matter because the Bucks will have a 3-game lead. I am fairly certain that it will come down to the final weekend as long as either the Pistons beat the Knicks or the Bucks lose to the Pelicans, although don't quote me on that. Anyway, Bucks are rolling. They've won 5 in a row. Pistons have lost 2 in a row. So it certainly seems like right now we are heading towards a Knicks-Pistons first-round matchup. Other stuff of note in the standings, Magic, they're by virtue of their win over the Hawks tonight, they are now 2 games up on Atlanta, so looking very good for the 7th seed and to host that play-in game. Of course, Atlanta is not yet guaranteed to be the 8 because both the Bulls and the Heat are a game back of Atlanta. So one of those teams, potentially both of those teams, could sneak into the 8th seed. So a lot to be determined in the Eastern Conference play-in bracket. And then out west, just an absolutely disastrous, and I emphasize disastrous, loss from the Minnesota Timberwolves. They now fall into 8th place. The Warriors are about to move back into a tie with the Nuggets and Grizzlies in a 4-6 scenario. The Clippers, are also about to win. They're only up by 9 on the Spurs right now. So I apologize. After these 2 games are over, we're going to have 4 teams with the exact same record, probably 47-32. Denver, Memphis, Clippers, Warriors, with the Wolves a game behind those 4 teams, and with the Lakers a game ahead of those 4 teams. So much left to be decided in the Western Conference. The only thing that I think we can set in stone for right now is that Houston is going to be the 2 seed. They clinched that tonight by virtue of the Lakers' loss. Congratulations to them. And like I said, I think Phoenix on the verge of getting eliminated. Okay. Whew. That's your out of town scoreboard presented by T Squared Social. Evan Schlossberg. What's going on, Evan? I believe the Knicks fans need to relax. What? RELAX? That's what you said?
Relax. Don't know the meaning of the word. Everyone's getting back healthy and needs some time to adjust. This was a good start. Tibbs needs to figure out the shot distribution with Brunson back. That's entirely too reasonable for what the tenor of this post-game show has been. I don't know. You may be in the wrong place, Evan. No, that's well said. That's well said. Thanks, Evan. Appreciate you. And thank you for the contribution. Jacksmaster 119. Kudos to you, bro, for having the energy to do a podcast after that. Hey, listen, that's the job. Cat was much better this time around. How come JB walks the ball over half court, taking 7.5 seconds when there is no pressure? Yeah, we could say that there's token pressure, but your point remains. It's the most valid criticism of Jalen Brunson that I mean, other than like obvious stuff like his defense, I think it's the most valid criticism of Jalen Brunson that exists, because how great does it look when they speed like campaign? You want to know why? And this is, I was again doing the All NBA research. Why spoiler alert, Brunson's not going to be on my first team, and I don't know for 100%. He's probably going to be on my second team. I don't know 100%, but there's an unfortunate reality that the Knicks with Jalen going into tonight, at least, the Knicks with Jalen Brunson on the floor plus 3.1 points per 100 possessions. Knicks without Jalen Brunson on the floor plus 6.2 points per 100 possessions. Like, look, that's a misnomer, and Jalen Brunson's awesome, and he should get MVP votes, and he is the most important player on the team, and he's arguably one of the most important franchise players in the league. But there are things he can get better at. And the fact is, the Knicks backup offense, they fly up the freaking court. And Jalen Brunson doesn't always like to do that. So is that an adjustment that he can maybe make moving forward? Abso-freaking-lutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. Is it a lot to ask for a guy who does that much? Yeah, but guess what? He maybe doesn't need to do as much as he's done here. And that might be the biggest key for them moving forward, is figuring out the whole less is more thing. Not to the extent of absurdity, not, with everybody, when Brunson was out, it's like, oh, we got to run more plays for Mikal Bridges, and we got to run more plays for OG Anunoby. You're not trying to reinvent the wheel here, but there are ways you could shift this thing a little bit towards a more productive direction. Thanks, Jacksmaster. Freeway Hustler 21. What's going on, Freeway? Thanks for another contribution here. This is my issue with Tibbs. Only one. A player will show him something, then ignores him after the Cam shit show. Wright deserved a look, but no, he stays as rigid as ever. Look, maybe the egg's going to be on my face. To me, this is the last game that you want to say that, because I thought Campaign was really good in his second half stint. I thought he was a positive contributor. I did not think he was good in the first half. And Tibbs absolutely sticks with his guys when maybe other coaches wouldn't. I think one of the reasons why, for as much as there are players in the league who, would rather saw their own arm off than play for Tom Thibodeau, because of reasons that we don't have to get into right now, because I don't want to disparage anybody. There are also a subset of players who would rather play for him than any coach in the league. And there are a number of reasons for that. But one of them is that he is not going to give up on a player who does what he feels is in the best interest of winning basketball games. And look, I've talked about DeLon Wright. I wrote about DeLon Wright recently. I think DeLon Wright has a real argument for playoff minutes. I think he has an argument to be ahead of Campaign in the rotation. If Tibbs, because of a bad half from Campaign, went and gave DeLon Wright rotation minutes in the second half of the 79th regular season game, in a game that frankly just, I mean, I know it matters to all of us. It really didn't matter. I don't know what I would think. I would not feel great about that. I just wouldn't. And, oh, by the way, Campaign was good in the second half. So I don't know what to tell you, Freeway. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe I'm seeing things. It's happened before. Thanks, Freeway. Michael Bilderici. What's going on, Michael? How are you? Great competition. Should have won in regulation. No question there. Free throws. Yes. Towns, hands up. Don't foul. Yeah, I mean, Tatum makes it so hard on. I agree with you. You're not wrong, to be clear. Tatum makes it so hard, and it's like the step back. At this point, he's Michael Myers to this Knicks team. Give him all the credit in the world, but yeah, absolutely. Hands up, don't encroach. I get it. I didn't think it was a terrible foul myself, but foul's a foul. Less McCall Bridges Hart, more Deuce Shamet right. Mitch held his own. Butterfingers Bridges not ready. We are so close. Let's go Knicks. Yeah, maybe there's you're saying I think probably tonight less Bridges and Hart. I thought Hart played a good game. Could you have used some more Deuce? Maybe. I thought Shamet was pretty. Shamet was fine. It's just it comes down to the defense and the size, and your ability to be comfortable. And your ability to be comfortable with switches. And, the more potential doors you allow Boston the opportunity to open on offensive possessions, the easier their life on offense becomes. You could sit here and you could say, I'll live with Deuce switched on to anybody. All right. I think that could be tough. To say nothing of like Landry Shamet, who again is not a large man. So yeah, but stuff to think about. Thanks, Michael. All right, we're coming down the home stretch. See if we get out of here in under 2 hours. Rashawn Parikh, what's going on, Rashawn? McCall was bad offensively for 3 quarters, but he had 9 points in the last 7.5 minutes of the fourth. Thank you for pointing that out. I should have been a little bit more explicit earlier when I was like, McCall's game was not all bad. And I'm glad somebody was specific about it. Thank you, Rashawn. I thought he was good in the fourth quarter, actually, in the short roll. I mean, he made the play of the game. His short roll possession where was that? Where was that? I wrote that down. KB, you got to be kidding me that I didn't. Did I not note when that was? Oh, yeah, there it is. Oh, yeah, when he hit the mid-ranger. Yeah, that's what made it 105. What was that? 105, 102. That was the one with 15 seconds left. It was a fantastic pass by Brunson. That was when they finally took out Pritchard because the Knicks were just hunting Pritchard. And then was the freaking foul, which was annoying. I'll say this, for as much as I could talk us up and down about how there's that, that might not be anything to hang our head about, that there have been 5, 6, 7 losses this year where it's a first thing when you open your eyes the next morning loss, where the first thing where you're like, oh, that fucking happened, didn't it? Yeah. This is one of those. I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning. My alarm's going to go off. I'm going to open my eyes. And the first fucking thing I'm going to think about is the fact that they could not win this game and that they should have won this game. That's annoying. Okay. Thanks, Rashawn. Issa Ortiz. What's going on, Issa? I understand the frustration towards McCall in segments, but there is a value to the idea that a huge chunk of his worth also comes from availability. Yeah, absolutely. Is that a little bit of a complicated conversation, because there are some who might say that the reason that Mikal Bridges is available for every game and never gets injured is because he plays a little soft. And is that a fair assessment? I'm going to leave that for others to decide. But he plays every game, and he plays a lot of minutes. And there is a value in that, and there is something to be respected about that, for sure. Thank you, Issa. Vaz Kalo. What's going on, Vaz? Zach Lowe said there's another level the Knicks could get to. That's why he's bullish on them. Regardless of the loss, I think we saw some of that level tonight, and that's something to take out of this. Yeah, I heard the same thing. I agreed with him then, and I agree with him even more after watching this game. The thing that has not the most, to me, the most unsaid thing about this Knicks about the story of this Knicks season, which is their record against these very good teams, is how poorly they have played in so many of those games. It'd be one thing if they were getting their doors blown off and they were playing well. They haven't played well at all. In so many of these. And yeah, you could. There's a chicken and egg argument saying, well, why are they not playing well? They're not playing well because they're not anywhere as good as these teams. They're not in the same league as these teams. That's some of it. I get that. But I'm sorry, what we've witnessed in some of these prior games against these really good teams, this team is better than that. They've never given themselves a real shot to win any of these games. Tonight, at least they gave themselves a shot to win the freaking game. They played well. And you saw, what happened. So, we'll see. Thanks, Vaz. Kev, with another one. Thanks, Kev. Can we trade back for IQ just for his Boston performances? Yeah. That would be nice. Maybe that's the trade. Mikal Bridges to Toronto for Emmanuel Quickly. I don't think that works under the cap, unfortunately. Thanks, Kev. Oh, is that the last one? Oh, no, this is the last one. Okay, here we go. Ah, Manny. What's going on, Manny? It's great to hear from you, and I'll just say thank you very much for the incredibly thoughtful note, and I hope hope you're doing okay. Manny Campos, maybe an off-season question, but if we are going to follow the Celtics model of tweaking the cast around our core until we get the right mix, I'm curious who you think is part of that. Is JB the only one? It's JB and OG Anunoby. Those are the two, no doubt about it. I want him here next year. I want him here for the foreseeable future. I think, look, it's a delicate question. Not delicate, I shouldn't say delicate. If Josh Hart was just a guy and not the a podcast host with Jalen Brunson, but he's also, we're sitting here and lamenting, or have lamented, in different forms and in different after different games, how this team is missing something that last year's team had. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that the departures of Isaiah Hartenstein and Dr. DiVincenzo had so much to do with that. So the notion that now, and again, this is not directed at you, but just I'm thinking through the question. The notion that you would then trade away Josh Hart, or that he is not indispensable, and you could offload him somewhere under the guise of like, well, he's an imperfect player. He compromises our offense. He's on the wrong side of 30. His defense has been all that great this year. Yada, yada, yada. There's something that we could get that could maybe fit in better from a schematic perspective on both ends of the court. And maybe we take advantage of some team who's looking for a leader and a guy to inspire a young locker room and to show them what it takes to win games and all of those sorts of things. I get that argument. I do get that argument. And yet, but then it's like, and like Tibbs, who the fuck knows what's going to happen? Tibbs could be out of a job in a month. So then what is left of your culture? It's Jalen Brunson and I like, all of a sudden I don't know how quickly I would be to now. Again, your question is who do I think is part of that? Can I sit here and say that Josh Hart is untradeable? No, he's not untradeable. That's silly. There's 3 guys in the league who are untradeable, and one of them got fucking traded 2 months ago. But do I think Josh Hart is part of it? Yes, I absolutely think Josh Hart is part of it. I think JB is part of it. And I think OG is part of it. Deuce, because of his contract, I think is probably part of it. Although you could get really creative with that contract, depending on what player and what position you're maybe looking to fill. Anybody else, though, really outside of those 3, JB, OG, and Josh, if the right deal came along, and I think there's a potential for some right deals to come along, I wouldn't swear that any of them are going to be back on this team, next year. And I'll be super specific with Cat. It is purely like, if do you think about a Durant trade if that presents itself? And then I guess if you want to believe in fairy tales and miracles, if there's a Giannis something this summer, but I don't foresee that I just don't foresee that. Manny has a follow-up. Is Josh Hart our Marcus Smart? That's exactly who I was thinking of when I was answering that question. Because for years and years and years, you wouldn't have, the Celtics resisted overtures to trade Marcus Smart, even as imperfect as he was. And eventually, I think their culture got to a place where they could withstand the departure of Marcus Smart and in certain ways benefit from it. And eventually, could I see the same thing happening with Josh Hart? Yeah, I could. I don't know. I don't know that I think they are, that time is this summer. Myself, but I'm also a huge fan of Josh Hart, so this is not an objective opinion. I could never be objective about Josh Hart. That guy, he has meant too much to me as a fan, and he has meant too much to this franchise. So anyway, Kara Goldenberg, you need a second TV. I have 2 TVs. They're right there. I have one big one and one little one right under it. Are you saying like a TV that's like in front of me so I don't have to keep looking to the side? Andrew always used to get on me about that. I try not to do it that much. I don't know if that's what you're getting on me. Either way, I can't say anything yet. There may be a new podcast setup coming in my not too distant future, which I am going to make very sure is set up in such a way where I will not have to look anywhere other than right in front of me if I'm checking on a game. So there you go. Thanks, Kara. Appreciate you. And I, despite the fact that I got, a little snippy at times tonight, appreciate everybody for checking out another Knicks Film School postgame show. This was a tough one. And And yeah, this was a tough one. There's nothing really else to say about it. But anyway, we appreciate everybody watching. And if you're listening on the podcast, we appreciate that too. If you want to help out the show, you know how to do it. Subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the pod. Give us a 5-star rating, write a nice review, especially about how kind I am and to all people, regardless of if their opinions dissent from mine. Make sure that's the headline of the review. And we'll be back with more fun and games before you know it. I got a fun interview again tomorrow coming up with John Schmeelk. We got the Detroit game, doing the post game there on Friday watch party after the Shumpert event. So we're going into the playoffs strong. Let's hope the Knicks can go into the playoffs strong as well. And we will be back with more fun and games very soon. Peace out.